All right, welcome back in, you guys. Happy Black Friday and happy Thanksgiving if you celebrate. My name is Sai, and today we are here for another chapter of One Piece. We got 1132, and I will admit, coming into this video, I kind of forgot how to do these, right? Because it's been so long. We had a 2-week break, got 1131, and then we had another 2-week break right after because Oda did get sick. Thankfully, though, he is recovering. He is better now. The One Piece official Twitter account posted that. And of course, with this week's chapter, he also said, hey, apologies, guys. You know, I didn't mean to take all these breaks, but he did say he's better now and that he wants to start chugging out these chapters once again. But yes, we do want to start this from the top and then just work our way through the chapter. So first things first, we have the Yamato cover page journey yet again. And I'll admit, this might be one of the better ones, because Yamato was chasing the sword thief alongside Tama, Komichio, and Speed, and we ended up here. We ended up at Udon Castle. Well, like half Udon Castle, because it's currently being rebuilt. But yeah, I thought that was really fascinating. It looks like we lost track of the kidnapper somehow. I don't know how that happened. I mean, the kidnapper is being chased by Kaido's son-daughter, Speed, which is like a half-horse person, and Komichio. Like, how did we lose this person? How's that even possible? Only a ninja would be able to give these guys the slip. And you might be wondering, Ninja Sai, what are you talking about? Well, for a while now, I have been thinking that the kidnapper is Shinobu. Of course, there's no reason why it would be here. She doesn't exactly have a motive because she's on our side, right? She was on our side all 20 years of Wano and even during the raid. There's no reason why all of a sudden Shinobu would start kidnapping people and then end up stealing Yasui's blade. It just doesn't make sense, but she is missing. We saw her with the group and she's just not here anymore. Maybe Shinobu is going to cut them off. Maybe Shinobu is going to stop them or is following them more intently. I don't know, but either way though, we did end up here in Udon, which of course, like I said, it is fascinating because this is where we last saw the Beast Pirates. Kaido's crew were last spotted here. King, Queen, Babanuki, a bunch of fodder people. And then that is when Aramaki Green Bull showed up and cleaned them out. Of course, there is still some debate as to what happened. I didn't know this was a hot topic, but when Aramaki showed up, he did put them in chains. He wrapped them up with his vines. And after Shanks showed up and Aramaki ended up leaving, nobody really knew if Aramaki took the Beast Pirates with him. Personally, I think he did. I think King, Queen, and all of them, I think they are in prison. Maybe there's a couple of stragglers like the Toby Ropa because we didn't see them. Jack is also MIA. But I do think that King and Queen and Babanuki, which I don't know why I keep on putting Babanuki in there as if he's some big important character, but I do think that they aren't here in Wano anymore. I think Aramaki isn't so dumb enough to just leave these guys here, right? Like, yeah, Shanks is off the coast, but Shanks doesn't care about them. Shanks cares about Luffy and the new generation. King, Queen, dude, toss them to the wayside, right? And then we also have to remember that Aramaki did call for a backup warship, so I'm assuming that's what happened, right? Aramaki got scared off by Shanks, waited for a warship, and then took them on board and simply left, and then beat up Weevil afterwards. So I don't think this is Beast Pirate related. The people we see rebuilding the castle, I think it's just Momonosuke's people, now that I look at them. Right, like we see like a bunch of shadows just hammering away and building up Udon Castle. And yeah, I do think this is an effort from Momonosuke to just, you know, get rid of the prison mine situation. Of course, with that being the case, you do still see the weapons factories in the background. I wonder what Momonosuke is going to do with those. Is he just going to leave them up, or will he eventually just repurpose them? Because I think that's what they should do, right? Like, I feel like tearing them down would kind of be a waste. It would be a bad reminder of what they had to go through on a day-to-day basis. But, you know, if you have the tomatoes, make pasta sauce, man. So as far as who the perpetrator is, right, minus my crazy theory that it's Shinobu or some other person Shinobu's chasing, I really don't know. I was hoping that this chapter would give us some insight as to who it is, and I think there is a hint here, but I just don't know what it is yet. Like I said, the Beast Pirates I think is solid, but it just doesn't make sense. And let's get rid of King, Queen, and Babanuki. Let's say it's maybe Jack. You know, Jack the Drought, the Toby Ropo. Why would they do this? Why would they steal Yasui's blade, a character who they don't really care about? And why would they kidnap women? Like, nothing makes sense for a big pirate group unless they're smugglers, right? If these are kidnappers and people selling them off to the black market, like, you know, Blackbeard, for example, it would make a lot of sense. But we don't really get that context just yet. But I do think Oda leading us to Udon Prison will be meaningful. This will be some sort of grand, not foreshadowing moment, but like, you know, this is a hint, is what I'm trying to say. So that is my thoughts on this cover page story. I do think it progressed it quite well. Not only did we move through Wano more for Yamato's journey, but also at the same time, we're progressing the Sword Thief story. I have seen a lot of people saying it's Gyukimaru, Onimaru, the wolf that stole swords at the beginning of Wano, but I don't think it's them, because just like Shinobu, and why that is weird to me, but I still talked about it, is because Gyukimaru-Onimaru, they're allied with the samurai. They stole swords so that they could return them to the graves. Yes, that would be correct for Yasui, but at the same time, Onimaru runs in the same circle as everybody else. They know Kinemon, you know, they know Kawamatsu and all these guys. So it wouldn't make sense if, you know, Onimaru saw Yamato, Tama, and Shinobu and said, oh, let me grab that, right? Like, for Zoro, it makes sense because Zoro is an outsider. But for Yamato and the gang here, nah, dude, like, they're friends with Momonosuke, who's the shogun. So I really don't think it's the wolf. And the wolf isn't exactly dumb, right? You could say, oh, it's a dumb animal, it's a dumb beast. But no, dude, they have a mythical human fruit, right? They know things, they can talk. So I don't think it's them. I think that also doesn't make a lot of sense. But that's just my 2 cents. And I would love to hear what you guys have to say about this. Did you enjoy Yamato's cover page journey this week? And what are your feelings coming off of it? So now, on to the chapter now. We got page 1, and we see the Vicky the Viking kid. So Oda is a big fan of Vicky the Viking, and this character pays homage to Vicky's design, which I think is pretty cool. Of course, we never had a name for this kid until now. Turns out their name is Colin, another, you know, well, not Nordic, it's like Scottish, right? Well, Nordic, Scottish, it's all in the same area, right? But yes, their name is Colin, and it turns out that they might actually be a meaningful character. You know, when we first saw this guy, or kid, it was like, oh, you know, like they're showing up here or there. It might just be like a background Easter egg. But no, Oda actually wants to bring them in and flesh them out a little bit. So we see a scene where Colin is talking to Dory and Brogy, which I think is hilarious, right? The kid's off the coast yelling at them, saying, hey, you guys, come get some drinks, man. Let's do it. And Brogy says, nope, you know, we're gonna go to the sun world. And the kid's like, oh, I want to go with them. Quick, bartender, give me some food. I gotta leave. And the bartender says, yes, Colin, here's some food. Your favorites alongside Ripley and your dad's favorites. And I'm like, wait a minute. Not only is this kid important, his family's gonna be important. What? You know, like, that's crazy. But then again, this does just make a lot of sense, right? We are now in the land of giants. We don't know anybody here, so we are gonna meet a lot of people. I'm kind of just wondering how important they're going to be. Right now, he's kind of striking me as a Tama Momonosuke character. And the reason why is because, one, they like Luffy, right? They kind of look up to him right now. And two, it sounds like they have a pet. Because, you know, the bartender says, hey, this is food for your dad and Ripley. And it's like, okay, so Ripley isn't a part of the family, right? If Ripley was like a brother, sister, or mom, they would have just said, hey, food for your dad and brother. But no, they said dad and Ripley. So now it's like, okay, what is Ripley? I'm assuming it's going to be an animal. I don't know why, but like whenever we hit a new arc with a character that's inspired by Luffy, we always meet an animal. Like, I'm just thinking back to Dressrosa, we had Rebecca and we had Musi. And then we go over to Wano, we had Tama, and then we also had Komachio. So I guess Colin and Ripley might just be the new kids? I don't even know what to call them. Like people who look up to Luffy with an animal? But yeah, Colin is interesting, and we do get to see why he's so excited to meet Luffy. It's not just because Dory and Brogy are hyping him up, but it's because his hero Shanks hyped him up as well. And I love that, because we don't really see Shanks talk about Luffy out loud pretty often. So seeing him just casually talk about Luffy, saying, hey, don't forget this name, you know, look out for this guy, but sure how Luffy's gonna come here. What I like about this is that it kind of implies that Shanks knows that Luffy will make it over here. Granted, Dory and Brogy probably just told him they're gonna go pick him up afterwards, but yeah, like, Shanks knows that Luffy's going to be here, and I think that really does put into context Loki. Because Loki is this big bad villain, he's chained up to a tree, he wants to destroy the world, and he's just not a great guy overall. And a lot of people were wondering, well, even I was wondering, but why would Shanks leave such a hostile person here on this island? Why doesn't Shanks, put him in the dirt, kill him, or just do something about him in general? Well, it could just be because he's gonna leave that to Luffy, right? Loki claims he's a sun god. Shanks obviously knows something is up with Luffy's fruit. Shanks is the one who stole Luffy's fruit, and Luffy ate it. So Shanks most likely knows that Luffy is the real sun god. So he's like, hey, why would I deal with this fake sun god when Luffy, my protege, my boy, can just do this? So I really love that aspect of it. Of course, there is a lot of headcanon in that mindset, but I do think a lot of that will play out, right? With how Shanks is talking about Luffy, with how he looks at his posters, and with Shanks' relation to Elbaph, I think it just all really fits well. So now, we move forward a little bit, and we go back to the great Eirik's ship. And we see that Hardin and Stanson are actually nearby, and they're like, whoa! Look, it's the ship and the rainbow. And what I thought was kind of funny about this, it's like a minor thing, but last chapter, Hardin and Stanson killed a giant deer, and they're like, we don't have a sunstone. What do we do about this? And they're like, well, we're giants of Elbaph. Let's just put it on our backs and carry it around. And it's like, okay, that's cool, but what was their plan afterwards? Were they just gonna sit around the coast until somebody showed up? What was that their plan? They wanted Dory and Brogan to show back up so that they can open the door to the sun world for them? Because that's kind of what it seems like. And I do wonder if there's an easy way to go from the underworld up to the sun world. Because they were down there, but instead of just making their way up, they went out of the island, onto their ship, and then they're just like waiting for the rainbow to show up. So we cut over to the great Eirik ship, and we see all the not all the straw hats, but the straw hats that are present react to the rainbow, and they're so excited. And one of my favorite things coming off of this chapter is Bonnie's reaction, right? Because Bonnie is a little kid, so every time we cut over to her, she has like stars in her eyes, she's amazed, she's living life, and it feels great, right? Because growing up, Bonnie just would read these books about these islands, and now she's finally experiencing them for herself. Of course, that's the same for all the other straw hats, but of course, Bonnie's a kid, right? We gotta give that more leeway. It's more adorable. Another thing that I thought was kind of interesting was Lilith's reaction, because Lilith is completely used to this, which is, again, another reason why I think Oda decided not to bring Lilith onto the Roto Playhouse, because Lilith would be too OP. The minute Lilith would wake up, she would say, hey guys, this is an Elbaph, right? Something weird is going on, and then she would easily get us out of every single situation. So I do think it was a smart move from Oda to separate her for the time being. So now, onto the rainbow segment, right? Brogy draws up this rainbow with the Sunstone Painter, which we now got the full kanji for it, and Sunstone is the same as Painter. I don't know how Japanese kanji works necessarily, but yes, that is what's happening here. Sunstone is synonymous with Painter. So Brogy is quite the artist, and he draws up this really nice rainbow, and it makes me wonder, what else can you draw? Because he doesn't say it's limited to rainbows. No. He just says, I drew it. Can we draw other things? Can we draw, like, animals? Can we draw up weapons, per se? Like, I think there's going to be a high skill ceiling for this. And one character that a lot of people, myself included, I always got to throw that in there, right? I don't want to seem like I'm the odd man out, but a lot of us expect Usopp to get an upgrade here in Elbaph. Whether it's big, small, whether it's courage or physical abilities, people are expecting something for Usopp. And, at first there's some crazy theories, like I've been throwing out Mjolnir, people have talked about Devil Fruits or vice versa, Conqueror's Haki, whatever. But what if it's not any of that? What if Usopp just gets a Sunstone? And here's the thing, Usopp is a drawer? Artist. He's an artist. Usopp is the one who drew up the flag, right? He drew up our Jolly Roger. Usopp has drawn many things in the series. So it's like, wait a minute. Could this Sunstone go to Usopp? I think it would be in good hands if Usopp got it. And here's the thing with Usopp, right? Go over to Skypiea. Usopp was pretty much the only character who took dials with him, right? Usopp still has the impact dials, he has the breath dial, so it's like, dude, if Usopp got one of these, it would just fit really well. And this would be an upgrade, depending on what you can and can't make. Like, imagine Usopp's like, oh, let me make a new kind of bullet, or let me make, one of those Usopp things he shot at Sugar. Like, yeah, I think this would be a really nice thing to have. And outside of Usopp, you know who else would benefit from this? Frankie. See, Frankie saw what this was capable of. Frankie is one of the ones who's like, wait, we're sailing on this rainbow? Like, I didn't think this was possible. So imagine, you know, in the final war, you know, people are like, oh, the Straw Hats are coming, the Straw Hats are coming. Kind of like Marineford, right? Where they're like waiting for Whitebeard, and then Whitebeard pops out from under the sea. Imagine if the Straw Hats also have a crazy entrance where they're riding over a rainbow. Like, I think that is possible, right? Whitebeard's under sea, the Straw Hats are above. And hey, another thing this could potentially explain is how Shanks manages to get around the world really quickly. Because again, going back to Marineford, the Marines were really shocked that Shanks showed up there. Because they said, hey, Shanks, he fought Kaido yesterday. How did he go from the New World all the way to Marine HQ? That is still a question that has been left unanswered. Well, if he had the power of a sunstone or, you know, a rainbow to ride on, yeah, that would be really easy. You know, Shanks could easily get over walls. He could fly in the sky, avoid currents, which is something that this sunstone can do. When you're on the rainbow, you ignore the wind. It's insane. It just takes you from one end to another. So yeah, I definitely think this is going to be a great way to get around the world of One Piece moving forward. Not just for the Straw Hats, but for the red-haired crew, and anybody else who comes here to Elbaph and is graced with a sunstone. Also, this kind of does put into perspective how Shanks was able to stop King and Kaido, because King and Kaido were the only two beast pirates who went to Marineford. They didn't really say how they were going there, right? They didn't say if they're going on ship or flying, but since we have the two flying people there, I'm assuming Kaido and King were flying in the sky. And I was always kind of curious to see how Shanks was able to stop them, right? Like, they're like birds in the sky. How do you get up there? Well, if Shanks' crew was sailing on a rainbow, he would simply just be up there with them. So yeah, I think this is really cool. I think we're gonna get this sunstone for ourselves. And to be honest, there's no reason why we shouldn't. We are allied with the giants. We have the sun god with us, right? Dory and Brogy are like our best friends. Dude, the king's son, Harden, is a member of our grand fleet. I'd be shocked if we left Elbaph without at least 5 of these things, man. But yeah, man, these sunstones are absolutely awesome, and I loved this reveal. And I do want to pass the question on to you guys. Since we don't know too much about sunstones yet, how do you feel about them? What do you think they can do? What do you think they can't do? I would love to hear all of those thoughts down below. And don't forget, these are called Taiyosekis, you know, sunstones. We also have Kairosekis, which are sea stone. So I kind of wonder, like, what is Oda playing with here, right? Sea stone, sunstone, will there be more stones in the future? And also, like, does the sunstone have a limit? I think there's a lot of questions that are brought up with this reveal as well. And I am, like I said, curious to see how Oda is going to play with it in the future. So now, moving on to the next big thing, we got Luffy running into Gerd and Goldberg. Forgive my pronunciation. Somebody tried to correct me and say that Gerd is actually pronounced Jared with a J. I'm not too sure which one is right or not. If you guys have more input, I would love to hear multiple opinions. But yes, Luffy flies up, and it's kind of crazy that he can do that. Just thinking about it, it's like, dude, we're so high up. Luffy kind of just shot himself into a sky island in a weird way. But yeah, Luffy shot himself up. Gerd ends up catching him, and she's like, hey, Luffy, oh my god, it's you. Forgive us, you know, you came here unwillingly. That idiot Road is nuts. We're nothing like him. And Luffy, the entire time, is kind of like, huh? Like, Road? Who are these guys talking about? Because here's the thing. The Straw Hats don't know Road. Like, they just see him as some random giant. They don't know his name. They don't know what he's all about. They don't know he's a member of the Grand Fleet. So it's kind of funny that Goldberg and Gerd are just bombarding him with all these apologies and explanations, and Luffy is just none the wiser. But one thing does stick out, because Goldberg and Gerd, they're like, hey, you came from down there, right? The underworld? What were you doing down there? And Luffy, my god, Luffy was shocked. He was like, oh, you know, like the face he gave us reminds me of the face that he made when Kizaru showed up to Egghead Island, right? Like, oh, somebody strong is coming. But for Luffy, in this scenario, it's more like, oh, I have to lie. So yes, it's kind of funny that none of the Straw Hats are here as well. Like Zoro, Sanji, Usopp, Nami, Chopper, they're not present. And again, I think it's really smart placement from Oda, kind of like the Lilith thing, because if the other Straw Hats were here, they would know something's up. right? The Straw Hats have seen Luffy try to lie in the past. He's horrible at it. And even earlier in this arc, when, the Straw Hats were trying to lie about Luffy eating the rabbit god, they were like, hey, Luffy, shut up. You're a horrible liar. So yeah, if they were here, they would know that something's up, but Oda split them up accordingly. Again, I think that is great placement. It sounds like I'm glazing Oda, but I do think it's just kind of smart, right? It almost feels like he planned, well, almost like he planned. He did plan this in advance, and you can tell. So yes, Luffy has a mini flashback, right? A one-panel flashback of his and Loki's conversation. And Luffy's treating this guy like he's a comrade. I hesitated to say Nakama because I don't think Loki's going to be a Nakama yet. But, people have been saying it, and I want to respect that opinion. But Luffy is treating Loki quite friendly because Loki says, hey, don't forget our promise, man. Don't forget our promise. And also, don't tell anybody we talked. And Luffy normally doesn't care. Luffy is an idiot. He's a buffoon. He normally either spills the beans or he just, doesn't try to lie. But this time around, he is. He's going out of his way to keep this promise. And here's the thing, Luffy and promises. That's a big word, right? Promises are big for him. Luffy will always keep his promise. He is that guy. So the fact that he promised Loki something, most likely his keys, I think Luffy's gonna do it. I could totally see Luffy releasing Loki at the end of the day, and I can't even imagine what the Giants would say about this. Like, would they be okay with it because Luffy is the real sun god? Or would they say, hell no, Luffy, you're gonna destroy our country, right? Kind of like Madame Charlie, where Madame Charlie had this vision, and she was like, oh my god, Luffy's gonna destroy Fishman Island, which still hasn't happened yet, but it should eventually happen down the road. But one thing I do want you guys to keep in mind, though, is that we don't know this promise exactly. Last we saw, of course, Loki wanted the keys in exchange for Shanks information, but we didn't see Luffy verbally say yes. We didn't see Luffy haggle or negotiate or anything like that. So I do wonder, what are the specifics of this promise? Luffy gets the keys, he brings him down, and is that it? Or does Luffy do something else? Or does Luffy just meet him halfway and Loki kind of compromises a little bit? There's a lot of mystery here, but either way, Luffy and Loki, the sun gods, are working together. Which is kind of ironic, huh? Because I'm thinking back to like Norse mythology and what I've, briefly read. I don't want to say I read through it entirely and it all stuck, but a lot of the times, Loki always tricks people, right? He always tricks and plays with Thor. And then Thor, on the other hand, is always so damn trusting of Loki. And this is kind of what it's reminding me of, right? We got like a Loki-Thor relationship going on right now. But of course, I think Thor more than likely always wins in the end, depending on what you read. It's hard to pinpoint it because I have seen a lot of iterations of it, and then I think Marvel has really corrupted my brain. Marvel is not the real Nordic mythology that's out there, nor any real variation of it. It has a lot of inspirations, but it's not exactly one-to-one, right? But yes, I think Oda is cooking up some fun stuff here, and it would be interesting to see Luffy play the villain here on Elbaph, right? Because the minute Luffy takes the keys and goes down, a lot of people are going to try to stop him, I'm assuming, right? Like, never have we had Luffy be a villain in an island before. So I want to see what happens here. Will Luffy try to sneak off with the keys? Will he fight the guard? I don't know, but I do think this is a really, really fun plot point. So now we cut over to the other Straw Hat gang, and they are being chased by the one, the only, Road. And my god, I really thought about making Road the thumbnail to this video. Like, when he's doing this with the tongue out, dude, that is a hilarious shot. I'm not gonna lie, I know this is gonna sound blasphemous, but that might have been my favorite panel in this entire chapter. He just looks so stupid, man. It kind of reminds me of like a Donkey Kong, like Nintendo kind of creature just popping out like that. But yeah, Road is still chasing the Straw Hats, and what's really sad is that I was giving Road the benefit of the doubt coming into this chapter. If you watch my other videos, I've been talking about, Road hasn't said anything yet. Maybe Road's going to apologize. He knows his goose is cooked, so he's just going to simply, get on his hands and knees and bow down to the Straw Hats because he wants forgiveness. No. I was completely wrong. Road double, triple, quintuples down He says, I'll keep you forever, Namitaro. Oh, Chopper, foo, foo, foo. Like, this guy's going in. Yeah, this guy's lost his marbles. I think the Zeus lightning strike might have fried some of his brain. He's not exactly acting, how would you say, normal, right? Like, he's really flipped that switch, man. And it's crazy because last we saw, he was just, the guy was just running. He looked okay. It's like, oh yeah, Road's doing something. And then we come over and he's just doing this, you know, he's like a serial groper, man. But the Straw Hats found out a way on how to deal with Road. Obviously, they don't want to fight him directly because they still don't know the circumstances, right? Despite Road saying all of this hootenanny, the Straw Hats still don't want to lay a finger on him because they just don't know if he's an ally, a friend, a foe, or an important giant. So instead, the workaround they found out was that they could just hit him with a tree. You know, just simply have nature finish him off. It's the same premise as why they used Zeus. Nami said, hey, lightning is natural, dude. You know, if he gets hit by lightning, it's not our fault. And, you know, technically you could argue that Zeus isn't even like a member of the crew yet. You know, he's here, but he hasn't like had his sake party, which I think we need. You know, every Straw Hat had a sake-beer toasting party. Zeus never got that. And I want to say that he actually deserves one. Yeah, you know what? Hey, Oda, please give Zeus a party. You know, celebrate this man. So anyways, they hit him with the tree, and what I thought was hilarious is that they said, wow, that actually worked? Like, dude, that's like a trap for an animal. How do you not see that coming? Like, the Straw Hats are just making fun of him. And, you know, it kind of goes back to, like, one mindset that people had a while back. And they said, oh, like, why are the Straw Hats running? Why don't they just beat this guy up? But the thing is that there's many layers to this, right? Again, like I said, they don't want to fight the giants. But at the same time, Road just never mattered. Road was never a threat to the Straw Hat crew. The Straw Hats are having fun. They built this, you know, Scooby-Doo contraption to take him down. Like, that right there just kind of shows how non-threatening Road really was at the end of the day, right? We are that Yonko crew. People want to deny that because we ran for a little bit, but I would say we had the luxury to run, right? We were just having fun. So Road, you know, I thought he was wrapped up with that, right? With the tree hitting him. But that is when Goldberg, Gerd, and Luffy show up. And they say, whoa, there he is. There's Road. We finally caught up. And dude, they shove that Hakwaku sovereignty so far up his ass. Oh my God. Like, they don't say the words, right? They don't say they're using the impact attack. But we know what that is. We know that pose, dude. We remember that. You know, we've seen this multiple times. And they landed it right on his bottom. Oh my God. Yeah. The reason why Road's mouth is open is because he's shooting out the air wave that just went up his butt. So it's crazy that they did this. And oddly enough, this is going to sound a little blasphemous, but when I saw them do this, they kind of reminded me of Kaido and Big Mom. Because one, Gerd is like a big woman. And then Goldberg, on the other hand, he has like a kanabo, which I never noticed. You know, I'm going back to the other images, and he didn't have a kanabo beforehand, I think. But yeah, I thought that was really cool. Shout outs to Kaido and Big Mom, wherever they're at. And yes, it looks like Road has now officially been dealt with. Is he dead? No, I think he will pop back later on. I think he will have this grudge against the Straw Hats. Right, we got rid of Caribou on Egghead Island, only to run into Big Caribou here. So now that Luffy has made it back to the group, him and Usopp start taking off right away, saying, hey, Usopp, we made it, we're in Elbaph, let's go. Gerd points them in the direction they should go, and she's like, hey, you know, we're on an island cloud, you know, be careful, but it should hold up your weight. And what's cool about this is that before we get the giant Elbaph Sun Village reveal, is that Oda does tie in this as a double reaction because we see the Great Eirik ship beforehand and they're like, hey, we're approaching the village. Like, guys, look at it. So everybody has this reaction all at the same time. And before we talk about the Sun Village, Dory and Brogy do bring up the 3 layers of Elbaph, right? We have the underworld, we have the sun world, which is where we're at currently. I think they also call it the sun realm, depending on which translation you read. And then we also have the heaven world, the heaven realm. And what's really specific about this is what they say about the sun world. They say the sun world is where the sun touches the most. And I thought that was a little bit odd. Because if the heaven world is above the sun world, you would think that it would be closer to the sun, thus that would be the sun world. But the reason why I think that's not the case is because when you look at the top of the tree, there's not exactly anywhere to stand, right? There's not exactly like a village at the very top. So I wonder if the village of the heaven world is actually inside the foliage of the tree, right? You go up and then you just hang out inside the tree, like a giant leaf room, for example. I described that horribly, but hopefully I found some pictures online to help you guys visualize what I'm talking about. But yeah, that's what I think is happening up there. I doubt we're just going to see another village just like this. So I think Oda's going to cook with the heaven world. And also with the heaven world, I think it's a pretty safe assumption to make, but it's going to be like the One Piece version of Valhalla, right? We have the underworld, we have the sun world, and then we'll have Valhalla up there. And I guess since the Yggdrasil tree goes so high up, I wouldn't be shocked if the heaven world is actually just another sky island, devoid of any foliage. I think that is also quite possible, especially since we have island clouds here in the sun world too. Maybe we go to the sun world, it's only island clouds. Just food for thought. But yes, we see the double spread of Elbaph, and it is beautiful. From the clouds to the castle to the houses. It looks great, man. I'm loving the design so far. You even see like another rainbow in the background too. Yeah, I think Oda definitely cooked up with this one. And there's not too many thoughts I have right off the top of my head looking at this double page spread. Mine is just taking it in. But of course we have the giant castle, and I'm assuming that's going to be like the real life version of Stein's castle that Road had in his playhouse. And another thing I found kind of interesting is that you could see that there's like an under level of Elbaph as well, right? You have some of these houses, but underneath them, you have like this weird middle ground. So it looks like there are going to be like some underground areas we'll go to later, hopefully. And you also see like a watchtower in the background guarding the castle. So yeah, there's a lot of like small details you can pick up here and there, but will most of these matter? I don't know, but either way, it looks absolutely bonkers, man. Elbaph definitely paid off. And here's the thing. I personally was always scared of Elbaph coming into it because I wasn't a big fan of the designs we saw back in the Big Mom flashback. You know, whenever we saw Shanks here or something, it's like, oh, like we got some wooden houses and that's it. You know, like it's cool, but like, you know, I see that in Minecraft, man. That looks like what I have over in Valheim. So it's nothing super impressive, but now that we have like this widespread shot, it's like, okay, yeah, Oda was cooking, right? He was hiding the background details, man. But while this is all happening, while we get this, you know, amazing spread, a narrator box pops in. Well, it's not exactly a narrator box. It's more like a page box because it's like a page out of a book. But they say that this is truly an amazing sight to behold. One could not even grasp the sheer magnitude of everything on this island. And they just go on and on talking about the flowers, the leaves, the insects, the fish. Everything is massive. This is the kingdom of giants, Elbaph. You know, Warland, the place of war. But you know, this message, it goes on until the end of the chapter, and they say some really interesting things. So, they say that your time spent here will not be without return. It won't be for naught. But, if there was one thing I had to tell you, if there was one thing I had to leave in this book, it would be that you should not linger. Do not overstay on this island. Louis Arnot, the explorer. And it's like, dude, what? What do you mean don't overstay? What do you mean our time's not going to be wasted? I thought the time not being wasted is also going to be important as to what he means later on. And I'll kind of get into this here in a second. But before I talk about like the messaging, I want to talk about the messenger, Louis Arnot, right? Because this is the guy who wrote Brag Men. We first saw this back in chapter 1115, or 1115. 115, sorry. I'm like, we're in the thousands now, I just throw that in. But yes, we heard about this guy when we first hit Little Garden. The anime even added like an extra scene where Nami finds the book and she shows everybody. But Oda brought this back. And I'll admit, we should have seen this coming. Simply because Brag Men not only made an appearance at Little Garden, but it also made an appearance at Ohara. At Ohara, Brag Men was one of the books that was saved by the scholars. And we do know that, the Giants went there afterwards, and they brought all of those books back to Elbaph. So Elbaph does have the Brag Men book currently. And then, another thing to really solidify this is that in the One Piece video game, One Piece Odyssey, Brag Men is also mentioned. And then, in real life, I think it opened a year or two ago, but there is a gym in Japan, in Tokyo, I believe. I think it's like in Shibuya, but there's a gym called Brag Men, the One Piece official gym. And it's like, dude, Oda's been thinking about this for a long time now. And I kind of wonder why he named a gym Brag Men, right? That seems kind of notable. Like, there's One Piece official stores in Japan, and I've been to them, but they're just called One Piece stores, right? The One Piece official store. Why not just call those Brag Men? Why did Oda name a gym Brag Men? I think there's a lot of interesting details there. But either way, suffice to say, Oda has been thinking about Louis Arnot for quite some time, and it looks like this guy might just be our next version of Noland, right? We heard about Nolan the Liar, and then we eventually solved his whole mystery and realized what his story was truly about. I think Louis Arnot is going to be the exact same way. Granted, I don't think he'll be here on Elbaph. I think he'll be further along the way, because Noland, his story started and ended with Jaya and Skypiea. But for Louis Arnot, he is an adventurer, an explorer, and his adventure didn't end here. We actually don't know a lot about this guy. So I wouldn't be surprised if come to the next island or the next island, we'll just get more and more of Brag Men tales. So now, on to what he meant here. Do not linger in this land for too long. That is ominous, right? Like, that's not exactly a good thing. And the thing with Louise is that back in Little Garden, he was on the nose. He said, yo, this place is big. It's a garden for giants. Little Garden. Like, he was spot on with that, right? Like, he wasn't lying. He wasn't adding flavor text. He was spot on. So I do take these words to heart. We shouldn't stay here for that long. But there are a lot of weird things about this. What would be the negatives of staying here for too long? And if there were negatives, why didn't Dory, Brogy, Oimo, Kashi, Harden, Stan... Why hasn't anybody told the Straw Hats yet? Is it because we just showed up and there's not exactly time to say it yet? Right? Like, keep in mind, we've been here for like, 4 months? Like, it's been a long time for us, the readers, but for the Straw Hats, they've been here for maybe a day, like half a day at that. So I think come tomorrow, we will like learn why we shouldn't linger here. And I do have a couple of ideas as to what it might be, and I've seen people throw out ideas as well, so not all of these are mine specifically, but one thing is that people are saying maybe if you stay on this island, you get gigantified. All right, like you stay here for too long, boom, 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 you level up and now you're like a giant. I could see that being the case, and that would also explain why Big Mom was so big. Because she kind of grew up here on Elbaph, or like Elbaph adjacent land. So that wouldn't be super shocking. But for Big Mom, there's like a lot of oddballs, like, oh, she left Elbaph, she got kicked out, and she also wasn't exactly born here. So I don't think that fits too well. But the gigantification route, I think, is really interesting. Outside of gigantification, what I've really enjoyed is that maybe time works differently here in Elbaph. Like the land before time, when you're on this island, time outside or inside stands still. I could definitely see that being the case. And I kind of wonder, like, imagine what that would be like. We leave Elbaph only to find out that what felt like one day for the Straw Hats was actually 1 week outside. Like, imagine that time skip, right? Because we were wondering what's going to happen, Buggy getting the poneglyphs, these characters getting the poneglyphs, Emu wants to reset the world, yada yada. Like, there's a lot of moving pieces outside of this island. And I'm like, wait, what if when we leave this island, a lot of these plot points have progressed rapidly? Like, imagine we leave and it's like, oh, by the way, Garp's dead. Garp's been captured by Blackbeard for months now, or just something silly. Because I feel like that could be the case, and that would be really interesting. Or maybe it could work the opposite way. Maybe time here goes slower, so it's like a hyperbolic time chamber. Well, I guess it kind of works both ways, but, maybe we get a time skip here without time actually passing. Because that right there has been something people have been talking about, saying, hey, would the Straw Hats get a time skip here in Elbaph? Would we train up and get stronger for the final saga? Well, what if Elbaph is perfect for that? What if time really does just stand still here, and then, you know, we spend a month here, but outside it was only a day? Like, it could work both ways. And yeah, I think this will be time-related personally. This could also be a disease. We don't know how Roger got sick. I think that's still like a big mystery. We don't even know what Roger had. Nothing could cure the guy. But how did he get that sickness? Well, maybe he stayed here too long in Elbaph. I think that's a silly idea because that would mean that everybody would just get sick here eventually. So I don't think that's the case. But yeah, do not linger in this land for too long is fascinating to say the least. And also, one thing that this does make you wonder about is the humans here on Elbaph as well. Like the characters in Roto's Playhouse and the characters in the Underworld. They've been lingering here for a long time. Like the Straw Hats just showed up, but those guys have been here for a hot minute. So has this, you know, Louis Arnot warning been applied to them? I think there's some things here. Of course, with that being the case, I do want to pass the question on to you guys. What do you think Louis Arnot was talking about? And now, on to the last thing we got to talk about. We got to talk about this spiky-haired guy with the hat, right? Like, that's the best way to describe him. Is it Shiki? Is it Scopper? Is it a brand new character? Is it, people have been saying Captain Kidd? I don't know. I do got to say, though, that the more we see of this person, the more I do think it's Shiki. I am leaning towards that a lot. And the reason why is because, one, the hair matches. Two, the hat matches. Well, would the hat match? Well, we saw the hat in like the Crocus cover page, and we just assumed that's Shiki too. But yeah, that matches. And another thing I thought was interesting is that Oda has not shown us this guy's grippers. His feet are missing. His legs are just always just cut off. You know, when he's sitting down, it's a back shot and we don't see the legs. You know, we're assuming he's sitting crisscross, but we don't see it. And then here, Oda cuts him off at the waist. And the reason why that makes me think it's Shiki is because Shiki doesn't have legs. The guy had swords, right? So maybe if Oda showed us the bottom half of this character, we would know automatically who it is. And then another reason why I think it's Shiki as well is because of the latest SBS, right? He dropped some information about Shiki. Somebody asked about him and Oda answered. They were asking if Strong World was canon and Oda said, nope, Strong World isn't canon. He didn't make it with the intentions of it being canon, but he did say that if he were to bring Shiki back into the story, he would have to give Shiki the float devil fruit, even though he doesn't really want to do that nowadays. So I thought that was interesting that Oda tackled a question about Shiki's canonicity in the series. All right, Shiki is a canon character, but that was in chapter 0. So it would be interesting if he took Shiki and then just brought him back here. I think that is in the cards. Another thing that makes me think this is Shiki even more is that in the panel we get of this silhouette, we see the grizzly bear in the background. And what was Shiki all about in Strong World? Giant animals. He did have a giant grizzly bear. So yeah, I think the animals, the hair, the hat, the missing legs, like there's a lot of reasons why I think it's him. And then we have to think about the fact that he's in the underworld. He's not in the sun realm. He's not in heaven, right? He's in the underworld. And I think that's pretty notable because Shiki is not a good person, at least to our knowledge, right? You know, maybe he's changed over the years, but from our perspective of Shiki, he's a bad guy. So it would make sense if he's down here. And if you look closely at him as well, it looks like he has a gas mask, the same mask that Loki's men had. So there's a chance that he might have been a prisoner here in the underworld. And then I don't know how you like escape the chains or whatever, or they even chained up the humans. But yeah, it looks like he's been living here for quite some time. And this could explain the whole thing about, hey, you know, where's Shiki been? Because with the other characters of the Rock's crew, like Kaido, Big Mom, you know, Whitebeard, Wang Ji, and then Captain John, like all these characters have been mentioned in the present storyline. Shiki's been MIA, you know, like Shiki just hasn't really been anywhere. So I do think this would really fit for him. Of course, I do like the Scopper Gabon route, but the thing with Scopper is that I feel like he'd be a welcomed guest. So I don't know why he'd be down in the underworld. Maybe he's down there to like be a peacekeeper. Maybe he's, checking on all the prisoners. Maybe he's keeping Loki in check. I think that'd be fine. But I do gotta say, at first I was 50-50 between Scopper and Shiki, but now I'm like 80-20 leaning towards Shiki. But yeah, again, I'm a broken record. I would love to hear what you guys have to say about this. How do you feel about this chapter and this silhouette? Who do you think it is? I would love to know any and all of those damn thoughts down below. So let me see. I have like a list here of like, so whenever I do these videos, I have like a bullet point list of things I want to talk about so I don't forget. Let me just go over that real quick. Don't overstay your welcome. Oh, yeah. One thing about the Louis Arnot note about not staying here for too long, and another reason why I think this could deal with time is because of Ja Rule. Not like the rapper Ja Rule, but like a Ja Rule. There we go, Ja Rule, the giant. We saw him a while back in the Big Mom flashback, and that guy was old. I think he was damn near pushing 300. And the thing is that we know that giants shouldn't live past 300. Oda said the average lifespan is 300. Ja Rule current day, I might be like butchering the time frame of this, but he is well above 300. I think he's like damn near 400. Let me like look that up. But yeah, Ja Rule is a really old guy. He's 408 years old. 408. He's well above how old a giant should be according to Oda. So what's going on here? People were really shocked when he was mentioned when we first got here to Elbaph, right? How was this guy alive, dude? Somebody put him down. But what if the time thing is true? What if time just stands still here? What if time just moves really slowly? So while Ja Rule is 408 years old, maybe because time is, slowed down here, maybe that's why he's still alive. I think that would perfectly explain that. But of course, that is just my thoughts on it. And yeah, again, that is the end of the video, y'all. I really freaking appreciate you guys for being here. Thank you for listening to me ramble. I try to just go more, off the cuff with this one. Normally, I try to like pinpoint things and try to be more eloquent about what I'm saying. But I figured let's just have fun with it, right? Let's just have a good time. And hopefully you guys enjoyed this format of a video. And yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Happy Thanksgiving. Happy Black Friday again. Hopefully nobody's going to kill you over a microwave. But that is it for me, guys. Peace out. Oh yeah, one more thing. I'm sure people are gonna ask about my shirt, right? I got the Cross Guild shirt. If you're wondering where I got this from, it was from the official One Piece store in Japan. I think it's a shop exclusive shirt, so you won't find this exact copy. It's like a patch on too, which is kind of cool. But I did realize if you want a Cross Guild t-shirt, Hot Topic also sells it. And Hot Topic has a Black Friday sale on their site as well. So I think it's like 20 or 30% off. I would highly recommend it. Obviously, Hot Topic runs really small, so like get like a 2 sizes up if I were you, because it does shrink in the dryer and washer. But yeah, that is just in case you guys wanted a Cross Guild shirt. It's not sponsored by Hot Topic. I just wanted to bring that up because I was shopping on it the other day and I was like going through their list and I was like, oh, that's kind of cool. Like they got the Cross Guild shirt, but it's not the white version. It's like a black version, which could be even better. I don't know. But as far as sponsors go, don't have any this time around, but I do want to shout out Raycon. I had a sponsor with them, I think last week. So if you guys want some Raycons, go over there, use my code SYVN at checkout and get 20% off your Raycon purchase. Like I said, this video is not sponsored, but it's there. Holidays around the corner. If you want to gift for somebody, I do recommend Raycons. They're really comfortable. They sound really well and they're pretty cheap. I've never seen earbuds at such a great price. And like I said, not being paid to say that, by the way. Just wanted to throw that out there. But yeah, I'll catch you guys later. Peace out, guys.